In the 3rd year of my marriage to Ethan, he had everyone keep secrets from me while nurturing a younger, more delicate girl. Those around me whispered I was his first love, his vulnerability. Yet he drunkenly scoffed. Emily? Once married. She turned out to be underwhelming. The man who'd sworn eternal love at 17 now cradled some 20-year-old. Crooning. She's so dull. Of course I love you most. Baby. The day I left, our household buzzed with normalcy. The housekeeper smiled. Off for shopping and tea. Mrs. Miller? I returned her smile. No need for dinner tonight. Ethan never guessed his underwhelming Emily was stubbornness incarnate. My dictionary held no entry for forgiveness. Clutching my coat and liver supplements, I walked the endless corridor. Light fractured across oil paintings, pooling like liquid crystal on marble. From the leased penthouse suite they kept perpetually reserved. Drunken laughter cascaded through open doors. Why bother locking what's forbidden to others? My heel caught in plush carpeting as I bent to retrieve snapped necklace pearls. The scattered orbs glimmered like frozen tears when Ethan's voice sliced through the haze. Unlike you philanderers, I've only ever loved my wife, my first love. My soulmate. Drunken pride thickened his slur. My fingers closed around cool pearls. Heart momentarily soothed. Such a shame. His sigh cut through the warmth. Marriage revealed her mediocrity. Pearls bit into my palm as a girlish voice quavered. What am I then? Ethan? Last night you said I was everything. Male laughter erupted. Silly girl. Believing bedroom promises. His wife's the rightful. Enough. Ethan's voice darkened. She's been mine since 18. I owe her responsibility. Predatory. Someone heckled. What if your wife objects? Chuckles. She lives off my money. What leverage? The girl's renewed sobs were met with murmured comforts. I stood in the shadowed hallway, pearls warming in my fist. Understanding crystallizing like the Baltic amber pendant I'd bought myself last Christmas. Final pearls clicked into my clutch. The elevator doors sighed open. Somewhere behind me, a crystal decanter shattered against marble. I didn't turn. Is this little thing really worth shedding tears over? The girl sobbed and coaxed. Ethan, I need you to say you love me most. I'd believe it even if you're lying. All right, sweetheart. His voice softened. She's so dull. Of course I love you most. Standing in the hallway shadows, I suddenly laughed soundlessly. The man who'd vowed to love me forever was now comforting a younger girl. Yet I found myself unwilling to even confront him. Once a cheater, always a cheater. My heels clicked through the endless corridor where 17-year-old Ethan had carved Ethan loves Emily forever into our classroom desk. His forever turned out to be merely 10 fleeting years. Ethan returned as I was finishing breakfast, arms laden with peonies and Tiffany boxes. He rushed in smelling of fresh laundry detergent. I'm so sorry, Emmy. The client dinner ran impossibly late last night. Our wedding vows included his promise to never spend nights apart. Yet these past 6 months, his homecomings grew increasingly delayed. Now this first overnight absence. I set down my chopsticks. His pressed Armani suit showed no wrinkles, his citrus cologne masking any traces. How meticulous. Darling, I swear this won't happen again. He leaned in for a kiss, raising my palm between us. I asked slowly, did you sleep at the office? Of course. His gaze held steady. See? I'm wearing the shirt you picked last Monday. When his phone buzzed insistently, tension flashed across his face. Emmy, there's an emergency at the downtown branch, go. My voice stayed calm as a frozen lake. We can reschedule. After pretended hesitation, he sped away in the Porsche. Only then did I wipe my icy cheeks and call Sophia. Can you schedule me a full STD panel today? When the medical report came in, I let out a heavy sigh of relief. My body remained free of complications. I wasn't pregnant either. When I married Ethan, my health had been fragile. That's why we'd never tried for children. But just to be safe, I'd undergone thorough examinations. Doctor, could you tell me how my recovery is progressing? Only after receiving positive confirmation did the suffocating weight lift from my chest. Clutching the paperwork, I turned the hospital corridor corner and froze at the sound of Ethan's name. Ethan, if I really am pregnant, could I keep it? My feet rooted themselves as I watched the scene unfold. Ethan flicked cigarette ash, his brow furrowed in irritation. The tear-streaked girl clutching his sleeve looked barely out of college, her makeup-free face blotchy from crying. My wife hasn't even given me an heir yet. He sneered. You think you'd get first dibs? But this is my first baby. She whimpered. I'll be good. I promise. Never bother you or let your wife find out about us. His nicotine-stained fingers patted her cheek mockingly. Don't be naive, sweetheart. That parasite isn't coming to term. Get it scraped out and I'll buy you a condo. But if you keep it, his voice dropped to a venomous purr. Let's be clear, Olivia. Your campus is crawling with prettier, dumber girls I could bang daily without complications. You're replaceable. The color drained from Olivia's face. I'll do it, she whispered desperately. Just don't abandon me, Ethan. Good girl. Now get scanned. As she stumbled into the examination room, he finished his cigarette. I timed my footsteps perfectly. Ethan spun around, flawlessly morphing into concerned husband mode. Emily, are you hurt? Why didn't you call me? His hands gripped my arms with Oscar-worthy urgency. Those familiar worry lines creasing his forehead, the same expression he'd worn when proposing. When I'd been hospitalized. Through a decade of marriage. My limbs turned to ice. How did he maintain this charisma? Even as his mistress got pregnancy tested down the hall, his performance remained impeccable. The loving husband, the devoted partner. Which version was real? Just visiting a friend. I lied smoothly, watching recognition flicker behind his eyes. For that split second before his mask reset, I glimpsed the true Ethan and understood how thoroughly I'd been played. He let out a long breath and pulled me into a tight embrace. You scared me to death, babe. Ethan, were you really that worried? I asked softly, meeting his gaze. Of course I was. His arms tightened around me. When we got married, your health was in such terrible shape. I spent 3 years carefully nursing you back to strength. Sweetheart, do you have any idea how terrified I was seeing you like that just now? If anything happened to you, his voice broke. I wanted to laugh, but my lips felt numb. My entire body trembled as if I'd swallowed boiling oil. Then why were you at the hospital? His grip shifted slightly. Oh, just visiting an elderly relative who's admitted here. But this was the obstetrics ward. I didn't call him out on the lie. Ethan's phone kept buzzing during the drive home. He finally powered it off. Not even God himself could drag me away from you today. I stared silently at passing storefronts. Our route took us past the high school we'd attended. Familiar scenes that once felt sweet now stabbed like honey-coated daggers. My vision blurred unexpectedly. In the haze, I glimpsed our teenage selves, young Ethan tugging at my sleeve with that infuriating grin. Come on, Emmy. Just let me explain. 1 sentence? 2. Please? Get lost. Ethan. Don't cry. Hit me if you want. Just don't shed tears. I can't stand seeing you hurt. A sudden notification from my purse shattered the memory. An unknown number had texted, he says you're too fragile for proper sex. 3 years of missionary only must be torture. Hates condoms too, says if I get pregnant I should keep it since you can't. Why cling to that marriage title? Mrs. Miller? I laughed abruptly. What's so funny, babe? Ethan glanced over. Sophia's blowing up my phone about missing our spa date. I locked the screen. She'll haunt me for weeks if I bail. Ethan visibly relaxed. Still going then? Have to. You should head to the office too. He pouted dramatically. I'm jealous. Why does Sophia always steal my wife? Let's ditch everyone today. I smiled as he signaled to turn around. There'll be other days. We have forever. Don't we? He dropped me at the country club before speeding away. 30 minutes later. Olivia texted, did he abandon you already? Told you he comes running when I cry. P.S. I am pregnant. He wants a girl but I'm giving him a son. I've done the math, this one's definitely a boy. It's such a shame the doctor advised against intimacy during the first trimester. Those lingerie Ethan bought me will have to wait. You know how high his libido's always been. Since you can't satisfy him, he'll be climbing the walls. I didn't respond, methodically screenshotting every message with trembling fingers. Ethan had played his devoted husband role so convincingly all these years. My naivety made me trust him blindly. Now that his debauched double life surfaced, the emotional whiplash left me reeling. Those tender nights I'd cherished were hollow performances. Our lukewarm intimacy wasn't restraint born of love, he'd simply grown bored. While I mistook his detachment for affection, reality slapped me awake. The dwindling passion wasn't consideration, it was outright disinterest. Before heading home, I dialed my former mentor. Emmy? Sweetheart. It's been too long. Professor. Does your research team still need field assistance? Are you medically cleared? You know I've wanted you on board since graduation. My recent physical shows I'm fit for fieldwork now. What about Ethan? Our projects require years of confidential travel with minimal family contact. I'm filing for divorce. Did he cheat? My laughter dissolved into swallowed tears. Yes. With my physical therapist. After 10 years together. Are you certain? Remember what you told me during your divorce? When faithlessness appears, burn every letter. Scatter the ashes where no memory grows. My voice broke as tears fell freely. You taught me well, Professor. Outstanding. I'll clear your desk space tomorrow. This marked my first marital expense request. Ethan sounded delighted through the phone. Honey, our accounts are yours to access. I want your personal transfer. All right. I'll have Olivia wire it immediately. Ethan, there's something waiting for you, 3 days from now. Visit our high school's mailroom. Ask old Mr. Song for the package. His chuckle warmed the line. How could I forget? Senior year. That man intercepted hundreds of my love letters before you noticed me. Be there at noon. I said, smiling through fresh anguish. The moment Ethan's funds cleared, I anonymously donated the sum to my professor's foundation. The sealed divorce papers and evidence folder reached our alma mater's mailroom by dawn. The broken pearl necklace and the first ring Ethan gave me. I personally burned them in the workshop and discarded them. Along with them turned to ashes were countless love letters he once wrote me. On that final morning, I accompanied Ethan through breakfast as usual. As always, I saw him off to work. Ethan looked apologetic. I planned to take you to the hot springs today. But I broke my promise again. It's fine. Work comes first. I smiled faintly, urging him, go ahead. Don't delay important matters. Ethan gazed at me with tender guilt. Darling, you're always so understanding. So perfect. These years, I've been too consumed by work. I've neglected you. I stared at him silently, my thoughts drifting to the boy who warmed my icy hands in winter mist. The man who knelt before his parents for a full day to marry me. After 10 years together, he remained young and handsome. His past love was real. His betrayal was real. His remorse and pity were real. Yet his restless heart, addicted to thrilling affairs, was equally real. I knew I could play deaf and dumb, remaining Mrs. Miller forever. No one could steal that title. But I no longer wanted to be his wife. I needed to become Emily again. Ethan suddenly embraced me. Darling, I love you so much. Wait for me tonight, we'll have dinner together. I forced a smile, swallowing unnecessary questions. Thankfully, his phone rang urgently again, pushing him away. I said, "Go. They're waiting." He lingered before hurrying off. I returned upstairs, changed into gardening clothes, and tended the flower beds. After a light lunch and brief nap, I dressed for travel, grabbing a bag containing all my documents. The housekeeper smiled as I descended. Off for afternoon tea? No need to prepare dinner tonight. He wouldn't be home for supper, and I'd never return. The chauffeur dropped me at my usual club. I exited through the back alley where my instructor's unmarked car waited, untraceable plates glinting. Clutching my bag, I crossed the street and slid inside. As the door closed, my phone lit up, Ethan calling. I didn't decline. Deep down, I knew this would be our last conversation. Darling, I'm ashamed to say this. Ethan's voice choked with regret. There's an unavoidable business dinner tonight. But I swear I'll come home early afterward, babe. Please don't be mad. I already sent Lynn you to pick up the gift I ordered for you earlier. You'll love it when you see it. I clutched my phone, staring at the endless street through the car window. Beyond the honking traffic lay hollow silence. The silhouette that had haunted my heart for 10 years, the teenage boy in blue and white striped school uniform, vanished completely in that moment. I knew with crystalline clarity that I no longer loved him. Sweetheart? Why aren't you saying anything? Are you angry? Ethan asked cautiously on the phone. Forget it. I'll cancel. I'll come home for dinner tonight. No. It's fine. I lowered my gaze to the bare space on my ring finger. You should focus on work. Sophia asked me to have dinner with her tonight anyway. I'll try to come home early. Okay? If it gets too late, just stay at the company apartment. No need to drive back and forth. I'll come home no matter how late. I remained silent. Ethan said a few more words before hanging up abruptly. As the car jostled slightly, I leaned back and closed my eyes. Ethan stood by the corridor window with a cigarette between his lips. The inky night stretched beyond the glass. Emily had always kept early hours due to her fragile health. She'd be asleep by now. When Olivia emerged red-eyed from the examination room, Ethan stubbed out his cigarette. Results? He asked coldly. Some minor bleeding. The doctor recommends bed rest this month. Then skip classes and stay home. Darling, she clung to his arm. Will you stay with me? Ethan jerked his arm away with a frown. I told you not to fucking call me that. But there's no one here. Enough. The driver will take you home. Aren't you coming? I'm scared. Take your pills and rest. I'm not a doctor. Ethan strode toward the elevators without looking back. Olivia bit her quivering lip, trailing after him silently. As he entered the car, she blurted, Ethan! He checked his watch impatiently. What now? Will you come tomorrow? The doctor said no sex this month. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What's the point? I'm spending this month with my wife. You'd better behave. Tears streamed down Olivia's face as Ethan softened his tone, mindful of her pregnancy. Get some rest. I'll visit when I can. She watched his car disappear into the night, frozen tears etching cold trails down her cheeks. Her jaw ached from clenched teeth. It made no sense she was younger, prettier, superior in every way to that sickly wife of his. Every time these thoughts crossed her mind, she was consumed by bitter hatred. Yet she couldn't bring herself to let go of Ethan, nor could she abandon the life he'd provided. She had no choice but to endure silently. Ethan's car pulled up to the curb. As the housekeeper hurried out to greet him, he asked with practiced casualness, Has Emily retired for the evening? The servant accepting his overcoat froze. But sir, Wasn't Madam with you? Ethan's steps faltered. What did you say? The mansion's golden light pooled around him in the ink-dark night. Madam went out this afternoon for shopping and tea. When the driver tried to pick her up tonight, she said not to bother as she'd be dining with you. The housekeeper's voice trembled increasingly. She specifically instructed us not to prepare dinner when she left this afternoon. Ethan lunged forward, gripping the servant's collar. What else? Every word. Now. Nothing more. Sir. She only said about the dinner. The ashen-faced servant gasped as Ethan shoved him away. Taking the stairs 2 at a time, Ethan dialed Sophia. Looking for Emily? We didn't meet today. But she told me this afternoon you two had dinner plans. Ethan's voice held terrifying calmness, belying the hand shaking violently around his phone. Emily did call, but I had surgery scheduled. We postponed. The line went dead without Ethan recalling how he ended the call. He contacted other friends from Emily's inner circle, all claimed no recent contact. Standing before the closed master bedroom door, Ethan found himself paralyzed. How could he have been so foolish? Emily. Brilliant Emily, of course she'd known. But when? How much had she discovered? Could there possibly be any path to forgiveness? Memories flooded him of their university days. That club activity where he'd grown close to a junior. The girl's obvious crush that half the campus noticed. Emily had mentioned it twice. But he'd dismissed her concerns. He worshipped her, other women meant nothing. Then came the club dinner where he drank on that girl's behalf and walked her back to the dorms. Emily didn't argue. She simply ended things. The ensuing 6 months of separation nearly destroyed him. Even now, the memory of his desperate efforts to win her back made his chest constrict. The second chance she'd granted felt miraculous. The doorknob rattled in his trembling grasp. Darkness greeted him. The bed stood neatly made, devoid of her lavender scent. Ethan rushed through the suite, flinging open closet doors and bathroom panels all empty. Her presence had vanished completely. Every room was empty. His hands trembled as he dialed Emily's number. The line connected, but no one answered. Ethan forced himself to remain calm. He lit a cigarette, taking a harsh drag before calling his assistant Lin. Lin. Send people to search immediately. Check everywhere. Mr. Miller. What exactly should we investigate? Ethan relayed the details of Emily's daytime spa appointment. Trace her movements after leaving. Every contact she's made these past days. Check her ID records, airports, train stations, bus terminals. Leave no stone unturned. Track her phone GPS and notify me the instant you find anything. Ethan stormed downstairs and sped toward the airport. Her possible destinations were limited: either her hometown 200 miles away or the city where her college best friend lived. He gripped the steering wheel, rationalizing through nicotine-hazed thoughts. He'd been careful. All friends had been warned against loose talk. Olivia wouldn't dare either. Perhaps Emily simply overheard rumors, or resented his late nights and broken promises. Their marriage was legally binding now. Assets intertwined. Fragile Emily couldn't survive outside his gilded cage with her health condition. The rationalizations provided no comfort. His heart thundered against his ribs. Each red light torture as he redialed endlessly to unanswered rings. Near the airport. Lin Yu called. Mrs. Miller left the spa around 4 p.m., but surveillance footage for the entire block was erased. No travel records found. She might still be in the city. Ethan exhaled sharply, knuckles whitening on the wheel. Keep searching. What about the phone trace? Signals are being actively jammed. Sir. The world tilted. Through the roaring in his ears, Ethan suddenly remembered Emily's last request for funds, her mention of leaving him adrift at their alma mater's security office. To be collected tomorrow. He U-turned violently, tires screeching toward campus. Midnight found him pounding on the darkened security office door. Dress shoes crunching gravel. Somewhere in the ink-black campus. Cicadas droned like malfunctioning machinery. A sudden chill brushed the tip of my nose. Ethan instinctively raised my hand, fingertips meeting the icy snowflakes. The capital's first snowfall had arrived, the very same kind of winter morning when I pledged my love to Emily years ago. I stood motionless as the snowfall thickened around me, snowflakes catching in my dark lashes. Minutes passed before Old Song's persistent calls finally snapped me from my trance. The weathered caretaker pressed a plain manila envelope into my numb hands. The moment it touched my palms, I nearly recoiled as if handling live coals. Part of me already knew its contents. Another part desperately wished to remain ignorant. Yet with trembling fingers, I tore it open anyway. Divorce AGREMEN glared up in bold font. Her elegant signature and smudged fingerprint marked the final page, followed by printed chat transcripts. No explanations. No farewells, just cold documentation that screamed louder than any words. My knuckles whitened, crumpling the papers into a deformed ball. After offering Old Song cigarettes with forced civility, I stormed to my car, tires screeching through slush-covered streets toward Olivia's apartment. The door swung open to reveal Olivia's sleep-softened features lighting with delight. She lunged for an embrace, only to be met with my stinging slap. 2 more brutal strikes followed in quick succession, leaving her slumped against the wall with split lips and blooming cheek bruises. Please, Olivia's plea died as my dress shoe slammed into her abdomen. She folded like broken origami, crimson blossoming across cream carpet as she clawed at the staining fabric. I hauled her up by the collar until our faces nearly touched. Who gave you the right? My velvet voice contrasted grotesquely with the fury contorting my handsome features. A gold digger daring to upset my wife? That baby was never about you, just sparing Emily discomfort. Olivia's whimpers escalated to screams as fresh pain tore through her. I'm sorry. Save the baby. Too late. I dropped her like contaminated trash. Pray Emily takes me back. Otherwise, my polished Oxford stepped carefully around the spreading bloodstain. Enjoy prison food once the cops find your embezzlement records. It's your child too. Olivia's bloodied hand grasped at empty air as consciousness faded. I merely adjusted my cufflinks, watching dispassionately until her twitching stilled. The snow continued falling as I dialed 911 with clinical precision, already rehearsing explanations about discovering my unstable mistress's miscarriage. Ethan didn't even glance at Olivia before striding out of the room. Snow already blanketed the ground when he reached the courtyard, his dress shirt and slacks offering little protection against the cold he refused to acknowledge. The phone pressed to his ear kept ringing into emptiness. His gaze fell upon the wedding band glinting on his left hand, realization dawning like the winter dawn Emily hadn't worn hers for days. That day at the hospital, she must have seen everything, heard everything. Yet she'd walked away without tears or accusations. The weight of her silent departure crushed his ribs more brutally than the freezing air. Meanwhile, I followed our research team deep into the northwestern hinterlands. My professor fretted over my health during those grueling first weeks. But the relentless fieldwork became its own therapy. The new burner phone stayed pristine in my pocket while my old device buzzed endlessly back at the dormitory daily calls and texts from Ethan that I never opened. When I finally called Sophia, her outrage crackled through the satellite connection. That bastard's been stalking everyone from the hospital staff to our freshman year roommate. Don't worry though, she added. I told him you joined a Tibetan monastery. Though seriously, when are you coming back? After the glacial core samples are processed. I said, watching my breath fog in the field station's dim light. And when Ethan's ready to sign the divorce papers. The aroma of cumin-spiced lamb stew interrupted our conversation. My graduate students dragged me to the communal dining tent where Professor Carter raised an eyebrow at my heaping bowl. Someone's developed an iron stomach, she remarked, the corners of her eyes crinkling. Your field rations could cure anemia. I teased, resting my head against her shoulder like a homesick undergrad. The tender gesture nearly undid me. I shoveled steaming meat into my mouth to mask trembling lips. That night, the abandoned phone on my nightstand vibrated like a trapped hornet. Back in his penthouse, Ethan stared at his own flickering screen, dialing repeatedly as snow piled against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The ghost of Emily's laughter echoed through rooms that suddenly felt cavernous. After everything finally calmed down, I sent Ethan my first and last text message. Once the divorce papers are signed, I'll return to New York to finalize the divorce. Don't contact me about anything else, or I'll permanently deactivate this number. The moment my message went through, Ethan called again. I still didn't answer. He didn't try a second time. After a long pause, he simply replied, "Understood." Across town, Ethan slumped against the leather couch, his laughter muffled behind trembling hands. Our mutual friends exchanged uneasy glances, none daring to speak up. Everyone knew he'd been tearing the city apart searching for Emily these past weeks. Though he tried to keep it quiet, rumors were spreading through our social circle. His mistress Olivia wasn't faring much better, rushed to the hospital too late to save her uterus. Recently fired from her teaching position, disowned by her family. Now she wandered the streets like a ghost, desperately praying for Emily's return so Ethan might show mercy. Was that Emily? Someone finally ventured. Ethan kept his eyes closed, the silence stretching until it became unbearable. Just when they thought he wouldn't respond, his voice cracked through the tension. "She's really gone." The air turned leaden. "Come on. You've been together 10 years. When she cools off, just apologize properly. Emily's always been forgiving. You don't know her." Ethan shook his head bitterly. The sentence still hung in the air when the penthouse door exploded inward, slamming against the wall with deafening force. All heads whipped around as Ethan slowly straightened up. Recognition flickered across his face, lips twisting into a mocking smirk. "Well, look who's here. Ben." The wiry man ignored everyone else, storming past overturned champagne flutes to grab Ethan by his Armani collar. Drunk and off balance, Ethan found himself pinned against the wall before realizing what happened. "Looking for a fight?" Ethan sneered, blood trickling from his nose. Ben's fist answered first. "You remember what I told you 5 years ago?" Ben growled, knuckles whitening. "If you ever hurt her." Ethan spat blood and swung back. Crystal decanters shattered as the two men crashed through the lounge. Within minutes, the once pristine room resembled a war zone, splintered furniture, glittering shards underfoot. Ethan finally collapsing beneath Ben's furious blows. Both men were battered and bloodied. Ethan's face was nearly unrecognizable. Ben's hand bore a deep, bleeding gash that dripped crimson onto the floor. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Ethan sneered, leaning against the sofa with one leg propped up. "This is between me and my wife. Since when do you get a say?" He barked a humorless laugh. "Couldn't wait to swoop in when you heard we were fighting. Could you? Let me remind you, Ben. Emily chose me over you 5 years ago, and she'll keep choosing me every damn time." Ben's bleeding fist clenched tighter, the wound splitting wider in macabre fascination. Physical pain barely registered through the thorn-piercing his heart, a barbed ache that had festered for years, burrowing deeper with every stolen glance, every forced smile at their wedding anniversary parties. "Consider this friendly advice between brothers," Ethan taunted, eyes glittering with malice. "Stop lusting after another man's wife. We've been married 3 years. Slept together countless times." He leaned forward, savoring every flinch crossing Ben's face like a connoisseur tasting fine wine. "Her first love, first kiss, first everything, they all belong to me. What exactly do you have to offer, Ben?" The desert wind howled outside the ER as Emily stirred weakly in the sand-caked Jeep. Through the swirling dust storm, Ethan stood frozen, watching Ben gently lift her injured form into the vehicle. Her head lolled against Ben's shoulder with unconscious familiarity, a sight that punched through Ethan's ribs more brutally than any fistfight. Back in the penthouse, Ethan's voice had dripped venom. "Everyone knows how madly she loves me. Her jealousy? Her tantrums? Proof she still cares. You think rushing here like some knight in shining armor changes anything? He'd risen unsteadily. Bloodied but triumphant. We'll never divorce. You'll die waiting for a chance that'll never come. Now. Watching the taillights disappear into the sandstorm, Ethan's knees buckled. Karma arrived not with thunderclaps but in the quiet click of a Jeep door closing, the exact sound Emily's car door had made when she'd left for her fateful archaeological dig 3 months prior. Ben's final words echoed through the howling gale. Carried on grains of sand that stung like shrapnel, I'll watch your downfall unfold. The desert swallowed the vehicle whole. Somewhere in that swirling yellow haze, Ethan's perfect life was being buried alive. He still followed that ambulance to the hospital. Her attending physician intercepted him at the entrance, yet permitted Ben to proceed into the examination suite. The sandstorm had ceased, leaving grainy residue between his teeth as he chain-smoked by the concrete pillar. Has she always worked in these conditions? Ethan rasped, dust coating his Armani suit. The silver-haired chief of medicine appraised him coolly. Emily chose this frontier hospital willingly. She thrived here. Ethan's bloodshot eyes betrayed 3 sleepless nights. These past months, was the treatment too harsh? His fingers trembled around the cigarette pack bearing their wedding date embossed in gold. Treatment? The professor adjusted her lab coat with surgical precision. We administered palliative care, not punishment. Her laughter often echoed through oncology ward. The 6'2" tech mogul suddenly resembled a lost child clutching an adult's sleeve. Please. His cracked whisper carried a decades-old plea from Princeton days. Tell me how to fix this. Fix? The Nobel laureate peeled his grasp from her elbow. When my ex-husband's mistress appeared at our anniversary gala, I prescribed radical excision. Metastasized betrayal can't be chemo-treated. Ethan's knees hit the sterile floor. 15 years together, doesn't that count? 23 years mentoring Emily does. She strode past him, rubber soles squeaking. My protégé learned from the best emotional tumors get 0 survival rate. At courthouse steps, autumn leaves swirled around his hollowed cheeks. The forbidden nickname dissolved midair as Emily turned, her Valentino trench coat flaring like a dismissal banner. Final paperwork's concluded. Mr. Miller. Her clinical tone mirrored the judge's hours earlier. We could, his throat constricted around phantom wedding vows. Grab coffee sometime? Like freshman year? Her stiletto halted. Moonlight caught the titanium bracelet he'd gifted during her first miscarriage. That girl died in New York Presbyterians or 5 years ago. You signed the DNR. Let me prove. Prove what? Emily's laughter carried Arctic bitterness. That your secretary's pregnancy was immaculate conception? That our IVF funds financed her Hamptons nursery? The parking lot's halogen lights exposed his receding hairline as she unlocked her Tesla. I'll reinvent myself. Start over like you did with our embryo adoption contracts? Her key fob beeped. Funny how legal documents become inconvenient when new life interferes with stock options. He gripped the car window desperately. The board forced me to impregnate your assistant? The Cybertruck's motors hummed to life. Here's free consulting next time you play God. Ethan? Don't cheat on your co-creator. As taillights vanished into downtown traffic, his whisper dissolved in exhaust fumes. You always said I'd end up alone. The wind carried back her decade-old warning from their first fight over a missed anniversary. Solitude's preferable to counterfeit company. I nodded calmly, yes. I heard everything. The last glimmer of light in his eyes shattered like cracking ice. But Emmy, you took your favorite pearl necklace and our wedding ring. You still couldn't let go of our feelings. He grasped at this final straw like a drowning man. I shattered his last illusion. I burned them all at the jewelry workshop. Ethan. You can go search the sewers for your so-called lingering affection. As I turned to leave, he chased after me. Are you getting together with Ben now? But all men are the same. Emmy. He's only persistent because he hasn't conquered you yet. Once he does. What of it? I met his gaze steadily. After surviving an ex as terrible as you, What more do I have to lose? Will you marry him? I'll consider marriage carefully. But I'm still young, there's room for both career ambitions and romantic interests. Do you love him? I smiled. Is that any of your business? Waiting at the crosswalk, I spotted the familiar car parked roadside. In early spring's chill, Ben leaned against his vehicle in a black windbreaker. Pale yellow buds dotted barren branches as cold breezes swirled. He kept glancing toward my direction until our eyes met, then straightened instantly. Sunlight breaking through clouds to gild his features. Emily. He strode toward me as the crosswalk signal turned green. Pedestrians began flowing like musical notes across the zebra stripes. I remained motionless, smiling faintly with my head tilted as he closed the distance, a scene worthy of cinematic immortality. Emily. He finally reached me. Breath uneven as if nervous. Earlobes pinked by cold. Gazing up, I suddenly remembered the defiant teenager from our school days. Those countless coincidental encounters walking home. Those stolen glances, none had been accidental. I wondered what Ben had felt watching me devote myself to Ethan years ago. What heartache lay behind that final smile when I'd chosen Ethan over him. Young love defies logic, the brooding artist type versus the charming conversationalist. Back then, my melancholy teenage self naturally gravitated toward the boy who knew how to make girls laugh. I don't regret the past. But I've decided to move forward. Waiting long? I asked with a smile. Not really. Perfect timing. His hand at his side twitched slightly, as if wanting to grasp mine before hesitating. Benjamin Clark. I called his name, stomping my feet lightly. The spring wind in Chicago bit through my coat. Cold? Freezing. My fingers are numb. I showed him my hands, fingertips slightly red from the cold. Ben didn't speak, simply enveloping my hand in his. He chafed my icy fingers between his palms until warmth gradually returned, then casually tucked our joined hands into his wool coat pocket. The traffic light turned green again. The crowd surged forward like colorful confetti. Ben pulled me along, our steps syncing with the urban rhythm. Spring deepened around us, cherry blossoms drifting through the crisp air. It's the perfect season for romance.